Okay, so here's a real-world example of a question you might face on a test, and this is exactly how I want you to answer it every single time. All right. So first of all, it sounds really simple, but read the question properly. It's the most important advice I can give you when taking a test. Okay, so here's the example. This is example 1. I'm going to show you example 2 in a minute as well. Okay, so state whether the source is primary or secondary and justify your answer. Now, this is giving me 2 marks for this question. So, because I'm a logical thinking kind of guy, I can guess that if there's 2 marks and there's 2 parts of the question, my instinct is that if I want to get both marks, then I have to answer both parts of the question. So the 2 parts of the question, it's separated by a comma, so it makes it really easy. Part number 1, state whether the source is primary or secondary. All right, good start. And number 2 is justify your answer. Now, this is fairly straightforward. This is a little bit more difficult. Let's do both of them so that we can get full marks. Now, just to go over the differences between primary and secondary sources. Now, a primary source provides a first-hand account or evidence of an event or time period, okay? They're often created at the time of the events occurred. So they can include artifacts, so that's objects, buildings even is a primary sources, diaries, speeches, songs, poetry, letters, memoirs, journals. All this is, okay, it's good to know, but the thing I want you to concentrate on is this part here. Primary sources provide a first-hand account or evidence of an event or time period, and they're often created at the time of the event. All right? So secondary sources are sources that interpret, analyze, or describe primary sources, and so can be considered at least one step removed from the time being studied. So these can include all this stuff, but the main point I want you to focus on is secondary sources interpret, analyze, or describe primary sources. Okay, so let's go back to the question. So state whether the source is primary or secondary, justify your answer. So the source that I'm going to use, let's pretend I'm given this in a test. Okay, this is a publication called Figaro, and we're looking at it as for evidence on attitudes towards Chinese immigrants during the 19th century. So we can see here that it's a cartoon and that it's dated July 14, 1888. So we can say that because this portrays attitudes towards Chinese immigrants in the 19th century, it is a primary source, okay? Because it illustrates the ideas that people had at the time, and so therefore we say it's a primary source. So therefore, when we go to answer our question, we're going to say source, let's call it source A, is a primary source. We can say this because it is direct evidence of views held by people at the time. Because remember, primary sources provide a first-hand account or evidence of an event or time period. Right? So, it's a primary source. We can say it's because it is direct evidence of views held by people at the time. All right? And that's a mark that will get you full marks. Didn't take me very long. It won't take you very long, but it does answer both parts of the question. If I just say source A is a primary source, immediately I'm cutting the mark that I can get from that question in half. And I don't want to do that. I want to get full marks. So source A is a primary source. We can say this because it's direct evidence of views held by people at the time. Right? So ask the teacher if you've got any further questions, and I'll see you in the next question. All right.